Hello and welcome back to Life.EV, the podcast that delves deep into the essence of values in the dynamic realm of entrepreneurship. As India edged closer to becoming the world's third largest economy by 2027-28, joining the prestigious draw of 5 trillion economy club with the likes of the US and China, it opens a gateway to unparalleled opportunities, particularly for entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Ajit Panicker, in my dual capacity as the head of Nova, an air conditioning enterprise, and Pureblu, a tech startup in the same industry. I have navigated through these ups and downs of business expansion. So join us every Saturday at 11 a.m. on Life.EV, where we engage in enlightening discussions centered on a critical question. Is it possible to grow our businesses while also enriching our lives through value creation? And our goal is to ignite a transformative conversation in our society, creating an environment where we can all unearth our true calling. Embark on this journey with us as Life.EV goes beyond the mechanics of business growth, focusing instead on the underlying ethos that propels it. Welcome to Life.EV, Life Exploring Values. And to help me with this exploration, as usual, is Vivek Asrani. Hi, Vivek. How are you doing?
Fine, Ajit. Thanks for having me on the show. How are you doing?
Absolutely good. Well, just a little bit of insights. We've had close to about 2,000 people who actually viewed us in our first episode. So that goes a lot for you, Vivek. And we had close to about 100 odd people during our first episode on the live show. So that's a good start for us. And we got a lot of these values that we'll explore through the weeks which we come. So, to all our viewers, Vivek Asrani is the head of Camo Fastener Company, a pioneering entity in the fastener industry. Vivek stands out for his profound commitment to the expansion of values, and now for nearly 4 years, he's been consistently sharing his reflections on the subject, offering a wealth of insights. His thought-provoking writings are regularly updated and can be found on his website vivekasrani.com. In this episode, before I finish, Vivek is also the author of One Day at a Time Reflections from Times of Silence, a book that encapsulates his journey and profound insights. This compelling publication is available on Amazon for your purchase, and it invites readers to immerse themselves in his deep understanding of values and their significant impact in both personal and professional spheres. Now, tune in as we dive into these enriching conversations with Vivek Asrani on Life.EV. And in this episode of Life.EV, we are exploring an intriguing concept, the 5 buckets of life. Vivek, your writings have had profoundly examined this topic. We are keen to hear about these insights. Could you share with your listeners your thoughts on this? And we're particularly interested in understanding the nuances of this concept of the 5 buckets of life, the unique challenges and the rewards they offer, and the crucial role this concept plays in both personal and professional life.
So, Ajit, this is actually one of my favorite topics because it is so much the basis of the way I probably try and live my life. And most of the conversations that I've had with friends, business associates, and people around have come around to the concept of balance. For me, this whole concept really started where I would be struggling with trying to balance various things in my life. And Sunday mornings is my Sunday morning coffee time. So on one of those Sundays, I was sitting and I was just penning down. I'm like, what am I trying to balance? And then it kind of just emerged that, okay, these are the 5 buckets in my life: my personal life, my immediate family, my work or profession bucket. Fourth was the friends and people very close to me. And fifth was my community outreach. And what I then started doing almost every week for a period of 15 years now, it's been, or 20 years almost, is every week I take a step back and say, how am I doing on these 5 buckets? So it's really a concept of bringing about balance. So that's one. The other interesting thing about this construct is that each of these buckets does not fill itself automatically. We need to nurture and nourish each of these buckets. And this is where I found, the ball dropping at my end, where I would take things for granted. I would take my eye off the ball, and suddenly I would find that one of the buckets is half empty and is looking a little low and feeling heavy, in terms of just not giving me that energy. And when I would review it, I would realize that, hey, I need to just actually nourish and nurture it. So that brought me to the second aspect of just being as aware and conscious as I can be in constantly trying to fill these buckets. The third thing which I experienced, Ajit, which was more of a discovery, again, nothing revolutionary, we've all experienced it and know it, is that these buckets, all five, although they're five different buckets, have an interrelationship with each other. So one bucket, when it is under pressure, gets supported by the other buckets. But if three or four buckets are constantly under pressure or simultaneously under pressure, it can then lead to a severe issue. So very often, in conversations, people have asked me, "Hey, how do you manage to do a few things that you do, and how did you manage this?" Even when one of the buckets was under tremendous pressure, because some of the other aspects of my life were so much in place, it really helped. So I think for me, it's just about the concept of balance, being aware that it's well nourished, and trying to bring about the interdependence and the interconnectedness between these five aspects of my life.
That's pretty cool, man. And this also brings a question. You said family, work, relationships, community outreach, and personal development. Now, often it appears that work overshadows the everything else. With other aspects being just pretty much taken for granted or sidelines. And many of us argue that if work is in order and financial success is achieved, everything else will be naturally aligned. Now, this raises a thought-provoking question about prioritization. I mean, should work indeed take precedence over the other areas of our life? What's your thoughts on that?
I think that's an interesting question, and honestly, that's something even Achieve and I have kind of struggled with and grappled with off and on. So here's my understanding and take on this, Ajit. The concept of balance is a very powerful concept. At the same time, at different phases and stages in our life, different aspects will take priority. But priority doesn't necessarily mean that we have to shatter the balance in our life. And I think that's where sometimes we get a little caught up in this discussion of balance versus ambition. That if I really have to achieve what I have to achieve, then I have to give it all, right? Now, what does that really mean? I mean, does it mean that you want to give it your all at the cost of not seeing your kids, having broken relationships, not taking care of your health, having other challenges in life? And is that really the end goal? No. So it's really maintaining the balance and yet understanding the priority. That's one. Second thing is work and our personal relationships are two sides of the same coin. When one is strong, the other flourishes. And the corollary is true that when one comes under pressure, we have a challenge in the other aspect. So if you're unhappy at home and you've had a fight, or things are just not going well, right, in your primary relationships, you think we're going to be really giving our best at the workplace? We might use the workplace as a release, as a excuse, and try and rechannelize our energies, but we will not be giving our best. No, in sports, what they call being in the zone. And the converse is true, that if you're making a mess of things at work and we're going to bring that home, our relationship with our immediate family and people close to us is not going to be great. So I think therein lies for each one of us to calibrate. I mean, we can't get judgmental about anybody. But I don't know, Ajit, you also handle a lot of work, lots of things you're doing, and your family. What's your take? I mean, do you struggle with it? Do you have a happy balance?
Vivek, actually, it was always told, work time is work time, personal time is personal time. You need to really demarcate the both together. I've always struggled when you start demarcating between the two of them. This is only work and this is only personal time. Because how do you say that, I only will, let's say, for example, I demarcate time from 9:30 to 5:30 only for my work. If I have a personal emergency, should I say that this is my work time and not go to personal? And when it's my personal time, should I do it the other way around? And that's what we've also done it. And that's something that I've learned is, there's nothing called as work. They're both sides of the same coin. And we kind of also that's what got me adapted to being flexible around this and moving from one space to another space easily. And that's what we did even within our organization. We, post COVID, we realized that there was an opportunity. We made it tech enabled, and we said, listen, if you get a call during work time from home, you need to address it. If you've got to be at home, even during work time, we've got systems where you can work from there, take care of your child, take care of your parents, take care of the medical help that you have, but you can also balance work. And I think that's the only way that I have figured out. Maybe it might not work with everybody, but for me, that works fine now, where I'm saying it's both sides of the same coin, and you need to transition smoothly between two of them all through the day. And that's my big take on this whole, this whole work life balance. And that's how we've actually been encouraging it, even with the people in our organization, with my entire team.
Yeah, that's well
And
said.
and one of the things that you brought out is all about this profession. In the professional world, especially with doctors, there were clear emphasis on continuous learning and development.
Hmm.
My sister is a doctor, and I actually once got to hear from her that she's busy on a Sunday because she's going for some continuous learning program. And I kept wondering, why is it that only a professional needs continuous learning and development? And for many of us, personal development often falls by the wayside. And particularly in a rapidly changing world, the necessity to continuously reskill ourselves is crucial. As entrepreneurs, you're always thinking of reskilling your company, but you often overlook the reskilling that you yourself need. And it's puzzling why personal development isn't given that importance, and why many fail to prioritize on this crucial aspect of growth and adaptation. How you dealt with this?
So let me use a phrase which is creating a lot of value in people's life. Systematic investment plan. So we also need to have a systematic investment plan for ourselves in terms of investing our time, efforts, energy in these five buckets of our lives. If I'm not investing in my own personal growth, physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual, if I'm not spending adequate quality time with the family, if I'm not investing time in the workplace, and at different times of my life, I might spend a different proportion of time at the workplace or with the family. But if I'm not spending time with my friends or with community outreach, then obviously I'm not going to get that balance. So I think it starts with first understanding that there is a need to be consistent in investing in ourselves. I'll tell you when this concept, Ajit, really hit home for me. I was 27, I came back from a run, started coughing, and the whole basin was red. I was throwing up blood. Advanced stages of tuberculosis. I was asked to go to Panchkani for 4 months. And I kid you not, okay, this is 95, and I'm driving to Panchkani and I'm just looking at what's going on. My health has collapsed. The business that I was part of, the family business, I thought was going to come to a closure because we were competing with the unorganized sector. I was part of a youth organization, and we'd been running that, for many years. And with some of my very close friends, there were a few relationship issues which I just needed to kind of, sort out and close. And I was in as bad a state as one could be. My health had failed, my business was failing, and I had relationship issues which I needed to immediately take care of. So three of the five buckets were completely empty. But what really saved me was the family bucket. It was so strong and so full that pulled me out. So I remember mom came with me to Panchkani for 4 months. And right through that period, she said, listen, don't worry, things will work out. And dad would always tell me, saying, listen, this too shall pass. And that's one thing which I grew up with. Now, because my family bucket was so strong, it allowed me what I call in my life a second innings. And ever since then, I've realized that I don't want to be in a situation where if I find that any of these buckets are getting weak, I'm not going to nourish it or nurture it. Sometimes there is a temptation to do too much as well. The other thing which we also discovered, and you mentioned post COVID. So today, when I look back, our business has doubled from just before COVID. Of course, we've been very fortunate and lucky being in the space that we are. But when I take a step back, I'm like, in the business place, a lot of things were already in place. So that bucket was already well nourished pre COVID. Not that we anticipated it, but we were ready for a kind of an emergency that hit us. My health was strong, so I was able to give that leadership and direction as needed over those 2 3 years. It was a challenging time because our relationships, not only in our personal lives, but and I learned that from home, so I brought that to the workplace. Our relationships with all our suppliers and customers were so strong because we're a highly relationship driven company, because maybe I'm a highly relationship driven person. That's the way I look at it. That bucket was very strong. And because there was a very healthy, vibrant, happy uh, outreach in my life in terms of community work, there were people I could reach out to bounce ideas off, and we were constantly nourishing each other in terms of just our emotional strength and ideas. And as a result of that, this just kind of, pulled us through the COVID period. But today, when I look back, we are double the size of work than we were 4 years ago. And this, to my mind, when I go through something like this, it validates some of these concepts which otherwise sound good, and people say, but it's difficult, but does it really work, but this is, I've got the next 10 years of my life and I've got to give everything to my work. I'm like, absolutely, you must. But it's like a sportsman. If he only exercises one muscle, he's not going to win the game. Similarly, you only overinvest in one aspect of your life, it's not going to really be have the same impact. And I just want to read, Ajit, over here, with your permission, a few lines from this reflection which I wrote on the 5 buckets. Uh, where I remember ending that reflection, it says that when these 5 buckets are well balanced, we experience life at a different level of awareness and joy. Our true wealth is not our bank balance, it is our life balance. And
Amazing.
when that becomes the outgoing paradigm of life, that this is the way I want to live my life and this is the way I want to run my company. It's not just the top line, it's also the bottom line. It's also the people are happy. It's also customer suppliers are happy. It's all the stakeholders are happy. So when it's not about the bank balance, but the life balance, then that's the value I'm creating. And then you start, filling the buckets. And each one of us has to define our own buckets, decide how we want to nurture and nourish them, and find the interconnectedness, between them. There's
Amazing. To our
one
view,
thing, Ajit, which
sorry.
comes to mind as we speak, triggered by something which you said a little earlier. People also very often say that, listen, but these are 5 different buckets. Now, it's very difficult to manage these 5 things in life. So I'm saying, don't look at it as 5 things. Yes, there are 5 buckets. Now, try and bring about an intersection. So I'll give you an example. I sit on the board, an advisory board of an NGO in Bombay. But I was pulled into that by one of my closest friends. So when we are going for those board meetings, 2 buckets are getting nourished at the same time. I'm spending time with him, and yet my community outreach. Similarly, at the workplace, Rashida and I, we have our businesses in the same building. So we make it a point to have lunch together at least 4 times a week. So the personal bucket gets nourished, a work bucket gets nourished because we're discussing that. Now, on the advisory board, we've pulled in some of our friends as well. So when we're sitting there, the personal bucket, the work bucket, and the friends bucket is all getting nourished at the same time. So if you're a little intelligent about how we manage our time and create these opportunities of these buckets coming together, trust me, for me, and I can say this for my, it's just been a fabulous experience.
Amazing. Absolutely good. So, to all our viewers, the verse that he read from is from his book called as One Day at a Time, Reflections from Times of Silence. You can get that on Amazon. And that's the time that we have for our episode too. So, this has been truly insightful and thought-provoking discussion. We've been offering deep reflections on balancing the exploration of values with business growth. Now, I urge you not to keep these ideas to yourself. Share this episode with friends and colleagues and family members, and pose a question to them. What do you think? Now, they The intent is very clear: initiate a conversation and discover the diverse perspectives and insights it might lead to. Now, we are also eager to hear from you. Now, engage with us on our social media platforms, share your questions, the knowledge you've acquired, and the insights you have learned from today's episodes. Uh, it's through these exchange of experiences and viewpoints that we collectively evolve and learn. So feel free to reach out and add your voice to this continuous dialogue. Your input is valuable in crafting a more ethically driven business landscape. That's all for today. Join us next week on Saturday at 11 o'clock for another enriching episode of Life.EV, where we will delve further into the captivating journey of exploring values in our lives. Thank you so much, Vivek, for those valuable insights, and we eagerly anticipate diving deeper into these crucial discussions in our next session. So tune in next week as we uncover more insights and perspectives that guide our ethical compass. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to engage with your friends in a meaningful conversations about life, exploring values. Thank you very much. Thank you, Vivek.
Thanks, Ajit. Take care. Bye.